Hello, I'm presenting a work that results from a joint effort from the Navy Laboratory and Vinci Construction Group, which is a French general contractor. Joint effort to find new ways of building with reinforced concrete, but in a much more sustainable way than what we are currently doing. The construction industry faces a major challenge, which is the climate change challenge, which impacts can be categorized into two types. One are the long-term global concerns. It's the rise of temperatures or the acidification of oceans, and are mainly due to the emissions of greenhouse gases. The construction industry is responsible for about a tenth of those emissions, and this principally because of the production of construction materials such as cement. The other category are the short or middle-term local concerns. It's the depletion of natural resources or the pollution of air, water, and earth that can occur on construction sites, for example. Strangely, the construction industry also faces a trend for the oversizing of elements, and the reasons for that are twofold. One is the evolution of cost over time. At the beginning of reinforced concrete system, so at the end of the 19th century, the costs for the production of construction material were high, whereas the labor cost was low. But with the technological progress, we were able to reduce the cost of the production of construction material. And with inflation and modification of labor legislation, the labor costs tend to increase. Now, general contractors tend to foster the oversizing of structural elements to ease and fasten the construction in order to flatten the impact of the labor cost. Another reason for this oversizing has been highlighted in a survey conducted on 130 chartered engineers in Great Britain, and that was published in the Macon Report. This survey clearly shows that structural engineers tend to oversize the structural element because of potential construction mistakes that could occur on site, even though the standard already includes some high security coefficient to take those potential mistakes into account. This results in very caricatural structural design, like this one from the Bagneux Station, a project that is part of the Grand Paris Express project, where we could clearly see that the ease of construction is more valued than the structural efficiency of the building. But examples from the past, like this slab that was reinforced with the NBIC system in 1904, shows that it is possible to, with reinforced concrete, to have structurally efficient structures. Actually, the NBIC system was the first widespread reinforced concrete system because it was the simplest way to reinforce structures at the time. Some of you might also have in mind some very nice and efficient design from Robert Maillard, like his bridges or the roof of those Magazzini Generali. So what we want to do is to take advantage of digital fabrication to meet the challenges at stake. Those challenges are a better control of the fabrication process and a higher precision, a higher productivity, and above all, a higher sustainability. What we want to do is to use digital fabrication to manufacture non-standard reinforced concrete elements. But when I talk about non-standard elements, I don't refer to geometrically complex elements or architectural elements, but I refer to standard elements that are non-standard in the way that they are significantly more sustainable than traditional elements. For that, we propose what we call the strut optimization approach, which is completely compliant with the Euro Code 2, which is the standard, the current standard for the reinforced concrete design in Europe. So, when an engineer designs an RC beam, given its geometry, so its span, its width, and its height, he will first optimize over the layout of the longitudinal reinforcement based on the bending moment of the beam. Then he will do the same with the shear reinforcement based on the shear forces of the beam. And eventually, he will only check whether or not the compressive strength of the strut is enough to withstand those shear forces. If it's not the case, he can play with the inclination of the strut to increase its resistance. and this is called the variable strut optimization method, the variable strut inclination method. Sorry. This method is directly based on strut models, truss energy models that were developed at the beginning of the 20th century by Ritter and Morsch. What we propose is to optimize the strut of the beams. So it's possible to do it in two ways. It's possible to optimize over the width of the struts, but this results in high-tie beams, and it's possible to optimize over the height of the beams. This results in truss-like optimal beams, and this is our design proposal that we call the strut optimization approach. Now, how do we build such elements? So that's where digital fabrication comes into play. Our proposal, which is very simple, actually lies on mixes digital fabrication techniques with more traditional one. The idea is just to print the inner part of the formworks that will protect the void directly on the loss casing, and then to close the formwork with traditional ways, so for example metallic plates, then insert the rebar cages inside the formworks, and then pour concrete. We've done a first prototype that witnessed the feasibility of the process, even though we encountered two main issues. One was due to the fact that the rebar cage was manually manufactured on site, and so its precision was far lower than that of the printed part. So we couldn't insert it in between the plates and the printed part. We had to first put the rebar cage and then manually add the printed part. Obviously, this is not what one wants to do with digital fabrication, as we lose all of its advantages like the precision. The other issues we had was linked to the formulation of concrete, which was much too dry, but for that we don't really bother because we are implementing some self-compacting concrete solutions, which will help us pour nicely the concrete inside the formwork. So, in order to measure the quantity of concrete that we could save with this approach, we studied a set of simply supported beams supporting concrete slabs and subjected to live loads corresponding to housing loads, so 150 kg per square meters, and we applied the proper ULS and SLS combinations. Then we looked at the ratio between the mass of the optimized elements and that of their corresponding traditional elements, so plain beams. And we did that for spans ranging from 6 to 15 meters and slenderness ranging from L/10 to L/16. And the ratios we got were ranging from 32% to 78%, which results in a concrete savings ranging from 22% to almost 70%. If we look a bit more into detail in those numbers, and if we take the example of typical beams that are used in a housing or office building, so it's like beams with span from 6 to 9 meters and slenderness from L/10 to L/12, the gains, the concrete savings, range from 30% to 60%, which is considerable. If we look at a bit more optimized beams, so with slenderness of L/14, for example, or less, we're still able to get ratios of about 50%, so concrete savings of about 50%. There are also obvious indirect concrete savings because we are lightening the whole structure, so we will be able to reduce the sizing of the foundation, but also the columns and the walls. But most of all, we are able, thanks to the void and so thanks to the design of the beam that creates a passage for ventilation ducts, we're able to gain some structural height at each floor, and typically we estimate that for 10-story buildings we're able to reduce the overall height of the building of about 3 meters, which is good both for the insulation of the building and for the fact that it will enable us to produce less material for the construction of the facade. So if I talk a bit about the perspectives of this work, regarding the fabrication, I've already mentioned the fact that it was difficult to insert the rebar cages inside the formwork. For that reason, we think that the solution is the automation of the whole production line in order to have the same precision at each step of the process. But most important is the fact that with the technology we're currently using, we're mainly printing cement, so the cost, both economic and environmental, of this process actually lies in the printed part. That's the reason why we want to try and print reusable material like clay or sand or wax, for example. We don't really bother as this has already been done by others, so it should not be too difficult. We also want to go and to drive mechanical tests, because the equations that give the shear resistance of the reinforcement are empirical equations that are derived from tests that were done on plane beams. So we are not 100% sure that these equations actually applies to our design. So we want to check that, and if it's not the case, we want to be able to propose some improvements for the code to be able to, for this optimized element to be standard compliant and to be applicable in the industry in a very short term. Lastly, regarding sustainability, we're driving two studies, one economic study and one environmental one. The main reason for that is that we want to check whether or not the effort we put in the digital fabrication of the beams balances the savings and the lower environmental impact we have thanks to the saving of concrete in those elements. Thank you.